Hello, welcome to Module 1, Grammar Lecture 1, Present Perfect Continuous. So before we begin, I would like to make sure that you have already reviewed the vocabulary for this unit, Career and Education. So this is Word Builder 1 found on page 14 in the Living Languages book. Once you've reviewed this, you can continue with this lecture. Okay, so before we begin, I'd actually really like to talk about you. And I want you to take a minute and I want you to think about what's going on in your life. What types of things have you been working on lately? What about your studies? Is there anything new that you have been doing? And have you possibly been preparing for a new career or taking on new job responsibilities? As we proceed through this lecture, I want you to keep thinking about these questions and how you can answer them, and then we'll return to them at the end of the lecture. Okay, so to begin, I'd like for us to meet Kim. Kim is a student at the University of Phoenix, and she is studying an MBA. She has been working on her MBA for 2 years. So this means that she has been working on her MBA since 2016. She has lately been starting to prepare for life outside of university. And so to do this, she has been getting career advice from her guidance counselor. She has been doing things like job hunting. She's been working on her resume. She's been completing her portfolio. And recently, she has been attending a lot of job fairs, and she's been making contacts with potential employers. So she's been doing quite a bit to prepare for life after university. All right, now let's meet John. John's approach has been a little bit different. Now, he is also studying at the University of Phoenix. Instead of an MBA, he is studying an MFA. But he really hasn't been preparing well for life after university. He has not been attending any job fairs. He has not been working on his resume. And he hasn't been doing any of the things that Kim has been doing, like job hunting. So, what do you think? In your opinion, who has been preparing for life after university in the best way? Who do you think will be the most successful? Okay, so let's take an example from the presentation so far. Kim has been working on an MBA at the University of Phoenix. So I'd like to ask you this question. What tense is this? This is the present perfect continuous. And how do we form it? So in other words, what's the grammar that we use in order to make this tense? Have or has plus been plus ing. Okay, and last question, when do we use it? Okay, so this is pretty easy. We use the present perfect continuous to talk about situations that started in the past and continue up until now. So for example, Kim has been working on an MBA at the University of Phoenix. This started in the past. We actually know when. She started in 2016. It's now 2018 and she still hasn't completed it yet, but she will. She's at the end of it. So this is an action that started in the past, 2016, and has continued up until now and into the future. The main thing to remember is just what I said. These situations started in the past and are still in progress, and many times they will continue into the future as well. Okay, so when we look at grammar, we always look at we look at 3 different things. We look at the positive forms of the grammar point, we look at the negative forms of the grammar point, and we look at the question forms of the grammar point. So right now we're going to look at the positive forms. So we'll use the same example that we just did before. Kim has been studying at the University of Phoenix. And the grammar is have or has plus been plus ing. Now, there are some different subjects that we can use. So we can say I, you, we, or they. And when we use these subjects, we have to use have. So we could say, I have been studying at the University of Phoenix. You have been studying at the University of Phoenix. We have been studying at the University of Phoenix. They have been studying at the University of Phoenix. And when we use the subjects he, she, and it, we use has. So he has been studying at the University of Phoenix. She has been studying at the University of Phoenix. It has been studying at the University of Phoenix. Okay, so let's look back at our example of Kim. Now we can see that we've already used this tense a lot to talk about her. For example, she has been getting career advice from her guidance counselor. She has been job hunting. She has been working on her resume. And there are some other phrases that we can use with the present perfect continuous. So we can use phrases like all day, all year, since, for. For example, she has been working on her MBA for 2 years. Or she has been working on her MBA since 2016. And we can also use some other phrases for more recent events. We can use lately and recently and these days. For example, recently she has been attending many job fairs. Okay, so we've looked at the positive forms. Now let's look at the negative forms of present perfect continuous. So we'll use the example of John. John hasn't been attending any job fairs. With this, we just use have or has plus not plus been plus ing. So for example, with I, you, we, and they, we say have not. So I have not been attending any job fairs. You have not been attending any job fairs. We have not been attending any job fairs. They have not been attending any job fairs. And remember that have not also has a contracted form, which is haven't. And haven't is the more common form that native speakers use. Now for subjects he, she, and it, we use has. So he has not been attending any job fairs. She has not been attending any job fairs. It has not been attending any job fairs. And again, has not has a contracted form, hasn't. And hasn't is the more common form to use. So let's look at some examples from John's life. So he hasn't been preparing for life after university. He hasn't been attending any job fairs. He hasn't been working on his resume. So here we can see that John embodies all of the negative examples of the grammatical form of present perfect continuous. Another one, he hasn't been job hunting. All right, and now time to look at the question forms. Okay, so here's an example. We could say, has John been preparing well for life after university? Now, this is a little bit different in that we don't begin with the subject. Here we begin with have or has, and then the subject, and then been, and then ing. So we can say, have I been preparing well for life after university? Have you been preparing well for life after university? Have we been preparing well for life after university? Have they been preparing well for life after university? And with these types of questions, we usually give a short response. So, yes, you have, or no, you haven't. And with he, she, and it, we begin with has. Has he been preparing well for life after university? Has she been preparing well for life after university? Has it been preparing well for life after university? Yes, she has, or no, she hasn't. Now, with questions, you can also use a question word if you like. Some examples of question words are who, how, when, why, where, etc. But this is just a very short list. There are many, many, many question words that we can use. So in this case, when we set up the structure of this, we begin with the question word. So question word plus have or has plus subject plus been plus ing. So for example, who has been preparing the best for life after university? Okay, so let's just do a quick recap. Kim has been working on an MBA at the University of Phoenix. What tense is this? This is the present perfect continuous. How do we form it? Have or has plus been plus ing. And when do we use it? So remember, we use the present perfect continuous to talk about situations that started in the past and continue up until now and often into the future as well. The important thing to remember is that these situations started in the past and are still in progress. The focus here is on an action. Whenever you learn a grammar point, you should think about these three questions. What tense is it? How do we form it? And when do we use it? Okay, now let's get back to you. Let's think about those three questions that I asked you in the beginning. So think about you and your life and what you've been doing and what's happening in it. So what types of things have you been working on lately? What about your studies? Have you been preparing for a new career or taking on new job responsibilities? As you think about these questions, think about the grammar that we just learned, the present perfect continuous, and how you can answer these questions. Also think about the vocabulary, that career and education vocabulary that we learned. Now, in your discussion 1 for this course, you are going to give a brief introduction about yourself, and if you want, you can start to try out these structures and tell us a little bit about yourself and these things. So the things you've been working on and how you've been preparing for your new career or taking on new job responsibilities, or just anything else that you've been doing in your life recently, a new hobby, new activity, anything like that. Okay, thank you very much. I hope this was very helpful.